Hey, I'm Tara, and thanks for joining me for another Crafting with Curly Cues video. Today I'm going to use my brand new fuse tool to create a shaker vase for this lovely bouquet of flowers that I've made here. And what I'm doing is actually using the Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle dies to create a big watercolor base for my card, and then I've used this Tim Holtz tattered flower garland die to create a whole bunch of little flowers out of watercolor paper, as well as this scripty thanks. I don't know what company that one's for, but I wanted to share my inspiration. This is the Sparkle and Shine Challenge, so this is kind of where I'm coming from on this project, so you have an idea there. So I've grabbed a few distress inks, and I'm going to do this whole project with distress inks. There's not going to be any stamping, which is very different for me. So I'm going to start with a smushing technique, and you can see I've just kind of selected all the different oranges that I have in my distress ink palette here. I've got some, I believe it's dried marigold, ripe persimmon. There is some fossilized amber, mustard seed, and spice marmalade. So what I'm doing is using that circle die is going to be kind of my guide for where my vase is going to sit. So essentially with this smushing, I'm wanting to create kind of a solid background so that if my flowers aren't completely all squished together when I put them on there, you're not just going to see white through them. I want the whole thing to be that pretty orange color. So the smushing is a really popular thing that's going on right now with watercolor backgrounds. It's really simple to do. You just take a piece of acetate and take your ink pad as you saw me do, and you just rub the ink onto the acetate, and then you spritz it with some water, and then you're able to take the acetate to your watercolor cardstock and kind of apply that color where you want. So it's that really free-form watercolor background with a little bit more control than you would have if you just put everything on your paper and started spritzing it with water. So now I'm adding some of that ripe persimmon as kind of a darker red color there. And I just basically am taking all these colors and smushing them all around. I did take some tumbled glass and put it inside that circle area. And that's like the water in my vase. And you'll be able to see later that you can see through the flat shaker that I'm going to create with my fuse tool that's just going to sit right on top of the card. And so you can see that pretty watercolor through it. I'm just adding a little bit of interest here by taking some of that ink and putting it on a paintbrush and flicking it onto the cardstock. And that's just going to create little splatters around there and add just a little bit of interest for this piece. This whole piece has kind of got a real like distressy vibe going on. So I will point out during this video, I sped some things up quite a bit because really I'm repeating the same processes over and over and over. So I wanted to share it with you guys, but I didn't want you to have to sit here for 20 minutes and watch me distress ink flowers. So I'm just taking my mini distress blenders and those little flower pieces that I cut out, and I'm just distressing them and putting down a full layer of color. I'm not doing any different shades or anything. And you can see the leaves are kind of different colors. I started with the crushed olive and I didn't like that, so I went with the peeled paint. So that's why I have kind of those different colors of leaves there. So now that I've got all my flowers colored with the same orange tones that I used for the background, I'm putting some water in my hand and I'm flicking it over the top of all those pieces. And this is going to put some water drops on top of that distress ink and allow the distress ink to wick away where that water's setting. And then when I dab this off with my paper towel, it's creating little bleach spots on top of all those little pieces. And if you've watched any of my other videos with distress ink backgrounds, you know this is one of my favorite things to do. I think it just adds a really unique bit of texture to your piece. So now I'm doing the same flicking on top of all these pieces that I did on top of the watercolor background, and I'm using that ripe persimmon, and I'm just taking my paintbrush and flicking on there, and then I just smushed my thanks sentiment through that ink that I had squished on my craft mat there, and I'm just going to go ahead and heat set that and just let that have a nice watercolory look to it that perfectly matches the colors in the flowers. This is one advantage to doing everything with the distress inks on the white watercolor paper, is that everything perfectly coordinates as opposed to picking out patterned, cardstocks that maybe don't match quite as well as you want. So it's just a fun way to get everything to coordinate together. So now I'm going to use my brand new fuse tool. I'm so excited about this. And what I've got there is an Avery Elle stamp pocket. and that same circle die that I used as my guide, and I'm just going to take that fuse tool and just run it right around this circle die. So this is a tool that you plug in, it heats up, and it's got this little circle at the top with these little pokey guys coming off of it. And really what it does is it just essentially melts that plastic together. So you can create any shape of shaker pocket that you want, and it's really cool. The other thing that, I mean, what it's made for is to do the pocket scrapbooking and to be able to create any size pockets. But a lot of really clever folks out there have discovered that you can do some really cool other things like create shaker cards with it. And so that was the main purpose that I have bought it for. So I cut that circle out and I cut the top off. So now I have a circle pocket, you can see there. And I'm going to go ahead and fill this with some of this just big chunky glitter that I got at my local store. It's not anything fancy, but I think it's really pretty. It's this great iridescent color. And I'm kind of going for that look of when you have a vase of flowers and you put like the beads or the sand in the bottom and you make it kind of decorative. That's what I'm going for here with this, this vase of shaker material. So then now that I've got it filled, I can take this little ruler comes with the fuse tool, and it's got this perfect little slit that you can just run the fuse tool up and it will fuse it together. And you can see it takes no time at all there. It's like not even a problem. Oh, I decided that was too full and I wanted to be able to see through the vase a little bit more. So an easy way to show you guys what I'm going to do with that, you can watch here. Because you can see that that's very pretty, but it's completely full of the shaker material. And so when I put it on that blue that I had painted there, you can't see through it at all. So I decided that I wanted to empty some of that shaker material out, and I wanted to show you guys how easy that was to just adjust what I had done with that fuse here. So I empty some of that out and I come back and I'm testing to make sure that it looks the way that I want it to. And I'm going to go ahead and take my fuse tool and just reseal the top of that. So it's a tiny bit shorter, but it didn't have a problem. And I decided just to freehand it here. I was trying to line that up and I was like, it's a pretty short line. I think I can handle it. So I just freehanded that. So now my little vase is all taken care of, and I think that looks so cool because it looks like a glass vase. You can see right through it, and but it's got the cool shaker material in it. So now I'm going to go ahead and take my card base. This is Neenah Solar White 110 pound cardstock that I've cut down to an A2 size card, and it is top folding. And I'm going to load that puppy up with some adhesive, and I am over adhesiving the heck out of this guy because that watercolor panel that I created for the front is pretty warped. When you do all the heat setting and the water on there, it can make your watercolor cardstock get kind of warpy. So I wanted to make sure that was on there. So you can see I'm going to use glue dots, and I've got the 1/2 inch and the micro, and that's what I'm going to use to put my flowers down. So basically now I'm just kind of getting a feel for some of the arrangement of how I'm going to get these pretty tattered flowers on here. And really it's just kind of a guideline, because you can see I put some of that peeled paint distress ink up in the corner on my craft mat there. I'm going to paint some stems in here. And this is about as creative with my freeform painting as I get. I am not a drawer or anything. So this was even a little bit out of my comfort zone to draw some lines of stems without a stamp, but it worked out. I mean, they look like stems. They're green. So, hey, that worked. So now I'm just going to dry those, and then I'm going to proceed with putting all these flowers on. And here's another spot where I speed this up a lot because it's fun to watch it come together, but it really is just the same concept of sticking those glue dots on the back and just kind of figuring out what's going to look good on this big, pretty summertime flower arrangement here. So I'm just taking all those little florals that I did and those various sized glue dots and squishing them on there. I don't use my glue dots super often. The thing I use them for the most is to put sequins on my card with the micro ones, but I don't use them very often to adhere actual things to my card. So I am pretty excited how well this worked out with those 1/2 inch glue dots and these flowers. I think it looks pretty cool. So now I'm going to take some sequins, and I've got my Pretty Pink Posh Sunshine Glow. They're 6mm, and then I'm using some 4mm sparkling clear, and I'm going to put centers on all of these flowers. And you can see there, I use the micro glue dots is my favorite way to put sequins on. It just makes it nice and easy. And this is going to add that sparkle and shine. I mean, this is the Sparkle and Shine Challenge after all. And Pretty Pink Posh is the sponsor, and I love their sequins. They're so much fun. And this new iridescent line that Paulina has is my all-time favorite. I've already got all the colors. They are gorgeous. So I'm just putting centers on all those flowers, and I'm making sure that I go in and put them even on the ones that are kind of hidden behind. And on some of the flowers I layered. So I would put down like the yellow Sunshine Glow and then put a little sparkling clear on top of it. So I just got a variety of centers, and now I'm just going to add my leaves and squish them in there. And I think this really fleshes out the design to get the leaves and the extra dimension in there and a little bit of different color. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to adhere my sentiment to the front of my vase. And this is what's going to help me adhere this perfectly clear shaker window to the front of the card. I'm kind of trying to figure out what's going to look best with that there, and I decided I want it a little off to the side. And I take my Ranger multi-medium matte. I don't know what order those words go in, but they're all there. And I put a little bit on the back of that sentiment here, and then I'm just going to squish that down on top of my vase where I want it. And this medium is really great, this liquid adhesive, because it dries matte so you can't see it. So it's a really good thing to use when you're using this clear shaker here. And then on the back of the shaker, I'm just going to apply some more of that same adhesive, but I'm going to only put it behind where the sentiment is adhered. And this is going to make it so that you can't see any of the glue in this clear vase adhered to the front of my card. So now you can see I'm just positioning that back on and squishing that down and making sure I hold that in place for just a little bit so that that slick plastic gets nice and stuck. And then I wanted that leaf popped on top of my sentiment there. Holding that down, and then the card is all done, and you can see that shaker moves around in the vase and you get so much shine from the middle of those flowers. I just love it. So if you like this video, please hit subscribe, give me a thumbs up. I'd love to have you guys come back for some more videos. Please join me over at Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, and all the supplies are listed on my blog. And then I've put here some links to a couple other videos. We've got another distress ink background and another version of a shaker card. So go ahead and check those out. And thank you guys so much for joining me. Bye.